entertainmentbuddha.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to The Graveyard, a hideaway of the kooks, subculture elitists, the disenfranchised substance abusers, those who in general don't mix well with others. I'm Nick Hershey, and with me is Ray Pareca, and we are here to talk about Deadly Class.
Hell yeah.
How's it going, Ray?
It's going well. Can't wait to talk.
Nice. Yeah, so we're 2 episodes into the new show. Ray and I have been fans of the comic book by Rick Remender. Fantastic book. If you get a chance to read it, definitely do that. But we're here to talk about the show and the first 2 episodes that have aired on SyFy so far.
I would even say, in my limited comic graphic novel knowledge, it's the only good one, because it's the only one I ever read. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Take it from Ray.
Yeah, noted expert.
But yeah, it's definitely been an eventful 2 episodes so far. The timeline in the show is brief so far. It's only been has Marcus been to school a week yet? It's a couple days.
I would say
like that.
At least 2 days. Probably hasn't made it to Friday yet. If it's his first week, you know. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, he's having it's a rough go of it so far.
Yeah, definitely. So what we'll do now, we'll kind of give a quick run through recap of the episodes here. So for those not familiar, Marcus is the main character of the show, the main character of the book. In the show, we get a look at his past. We see him in 1987 San Francisco. He's living on the streets. And then with his flashback, we see that his parents have died. And Ray, I don't know about you, but even when I read it in the comic and still saw it on the TV about how they died,
mm-hmm.
it's just so like weird and heartbreaking at the same time.
It is absolutely like brutal and sad, but also like kind of, and this sounds really bad, but it's kind of like rad in the wildest way possible, because it's just it's really well done, I think, in the book, and it's such a visual thing that seeing it again from that hand-drawn perspective they use in the TV show, it's really good, and I think it really sets up Marcus as you can see why he's kind of like a nihilist, apathetic teenager, more than like most teenagers are nihilist, apathetic teenagers.
Right. Especially 1987 nihilist teenagers.
Yeah, because the world is pretty screwed at that point, at least in my perspective,
Yeah, and we quickly come to find that Marcus's biggest enemy in his world is President Ronald Reagan. So going back to his parents' deaths and what we see in the show, basically Reagan cuts fundings to mental health institutions, and a suicidal patient who should be getting institutional help decides to leap from a building and lands on both of Marcus's parents as he watches them. So that really sets the tone for Marcus and his views on the world. He's a substance abuser. Within the first 5 minutes of the first episode, he picks up a joint off the street.
Yep.
And it's laced with angel dust, and he starts tripping, and there's the Day of the Dead parade. And through that he unknowingly meets a few of the characters that will become staples of the show. But yeah, basically, I don't know, maybe I'm skipping over a little bit too much here, but basically Marcus meets Master Lin. Master Lin is the head of King's Dominion, the school that trains assassins. Offers Marcus a chance to join them. He refuses. One of the best scenes, I think, in the first episode, too, is when Marcus is on the rooftop of the same building where the woman jumped that killed his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And Saya comes up. She's obviously one of the students with King's Dominion there. She comes up, convinces him to join them.
Yeah,
he doesn't have anything to lose, and he says, let's do this.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that's like the key part, is that he doesn't have anything to lose. So it's a really kind of an important moment in that this is a kid who, up until that point, we've realized he doesn't really have, he has nothing going for him. His life sucks. for but the past, like you mentioned with his parents being killed, as well as like a boys' home that he winds up in, and even like trying to just smoke a little pot and being laced with angel dust, all that kind of stuff. Like he just has no luck whatsoever, and you can totally understand why he would be like, screw it, I'm just gonna hop off this building too. But also when Saya offers him her hand, kind of like, what else do you have? It really does make sense. You could see why this kid who has nothing could be like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll become an assassin now. Like, why not?
Yeah, certainly. And one of the quotes that stuck in my head in the first episode was when Master Lin is first talking with Marcus, and he goes, "Is your life going according to plan, Marcus?" And his response is, "I eat trash and sleep and piss, all according to plan." In that cynical, nihilistic tone where he doesn't expect help from anyone, he doesn't want help from anyone. Right. So all of this is new to him, and then obviously with his reputation, there he was accused of burning down the orphanage or the boys' home that he lived in with, I think it was a dozen or so people inside. Yeah. So he has this kind of reputation. He's on the run from the cops. They're still looking for him because of that. So yeah, going back to his moment with Saya, he really doesn't have anything, to the point where he's ready to just jump right then and there until she convinces him otherwise.
Yep. And I don't really remember, but in the book, does that woman jump off the Golden Gate Bridge instead of a building?
You know what? I have the book right here. I know in the show it was the same. It was the same building, but okay. I believe in the book it was the Golden Gate.
Okay, yeah, that's I don't. I have all of the books except for the first volume actually sitting next to me right now. But that's when I was watching the show. It's like, I feel like this is different, but like the same thing. And for whatever reason, Golden Gate Bridge. Also, speaking of different, as you mentioned, the Master Lin character, short little Chinese man in the book, big boy Benedict Wong in the show.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. I think he carries himself with like this gravitas that is imposing and mysterious, and also like just he looks good on screen in that headmaster uniform. So it's
absolutely dope. Yeah. I'm the same way with that. We saw the trailer a while back, and you see Master Lin in it, and obviously they released the first episode on YouTube like a month early, and I'm the sort of guy where if something's coming from a book, especially if it's a comic book, I want those characters to be the same, usually.
Yeah, sure.
But obviously that's not going to be the case. There's going to be changes here and there, but yeah, I think you're right. Benedict Wong is phenomenal as Master Lin so far through 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Like I said, he has that stature about him where he has a purpose. He knows what he's doing and why he's doing it, and you can't hide anything from him. Like, I don't know how, but you just can't hide anything from him.
He's got eyes.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot happens, in that first episode there. He meets all the gangs at the school, which identifies with the book as well.
Yeah, phenomenal sequence.
Yeah, you got the Preps, the Vatos, the Dixie Mob, the Hessians, First World Order, Kuroki Syndicate, and then of course the Rats, which is what Marcus and Billy are, just basically no affiliation at all. So I thought that whole scene in the lunchroom where Billy was explaining each thing was great, and I love their use of the colors and the lettering that coincides with the book as well when they're doing that.
It's actually kind of wild that like this show, I don't know much about like SyFy, the network, in terms of like budgetary stuff or production things, but to be able to like so perfectly kind of bring such a visually arresting book series to life by using the things from the books. Like you said, there's title cards and coloration stuff. It's fun to watch, which I can't think of many other shows I really like that I could easily say like, dude, this just like looks cool to watch whether you're invested or not. So I like it.
Right. Yeah, and the other show, I've mentioned it to you before, but it's also based on a graphic novel, also on SyFy, called Happy. They kind of do a similar thing where they'll have the intro to the show, they'll have a scene or two at the beginning, and then just out of nowhere, the title flashes in big letters across the screen, which is what they do with Deadly Class as well. And just that kind of that quick shot there, I think it really works well when it comes to the comic book, transferring it from book to screen.
Yeah, because my three favorite things in any like visual medium, like, or TV show, movie, I like: 1, voiceover narration; 2, like visible title cards; and 3, I like meet the gangs all here, meet the players kind of sequences. So this show does all of that within like a 3-minute span. So it gets a lot of points in my book outside of already being a fan.
Yeah, and going back to that scene too, where Marcus is meeting everybody or learning about the different gangs. Billy, obviously knows everything about everyone there, and one of the things he says that really caught my attention too was, everyone else in those gangs are, he says, they're top of the legacy kids from government or criminal organizations.
Right.
And he goes, as in, not like us. And then he goes on to say, my old man's an abusive, low-rank cop, dialed into the mob. You're a bloodthirsty orphan. We're losers, dude. And he like laughs about it. And that was one of my favorite like moments where he just bluntly states, like, you have to realize, Marcus, we're the losers in this school. Like, we don't have any affiliation. We don't have anything to go on. We don't have a legacy. So,
and that is,
I thought that was awesome.
You're correct in that. Especially, I think this is the one thing the show, I think, will always be able to do better than the book series itself, is that this is, I've always read the Deadly Class, first and foremost, is a story about like high school kids. I think the books tend to rush forward and deal with some more interpersonal stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like, these are 17-year-old kids, they're in high school, and I think the show does a great job of like painting Marcus and Billy and the other kids as outcasts, and everyone else is from positions of relative power, which is such an important thing for any kind of high school type of thing, be it a book, a movie, whatever. Like, you need to have that perspective from day one and minute one, and Billy, I think, is the rock that kind of introduces all that. And also, he's got a great mohawk, so hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but in the second episode, you're reminded that it's a school too, because there's the intro scene where he's walking through the hallways. He sees the different groups, the different cliques. He sees Brandy and her cheerleaders. I'm like, a school for assassin has cheerleaders?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
not only cheerleaders, roller skating cheerleaders.
Right, roller skating cheerleaders. And I'm like it's just another reminder that this is high school. These are teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, they still have, even though they're learning the deadly arts, they still have teenage things going on. Yeah. They just take it to a completely different level than normal kids. But yeah, it's one of those things too where you watch it and you get a feel for Marcus as his character develops. Like, you feel pretty quickly on that. Obviously, he's a loner. He doesn't want to be with anybody. But then he's quickly standing up for other people. Right. Like, people he just met. So in that first episode, going back to that, he meets Maria, and Chico comes over, and her boyfriend comes over and kind of pushes him against the wall, threatens him a little bit. She tricks Marcus into thinking that Chico beats her because she wants Marcus to take Chico out, and he falls for it and nearly gets himself killed. So within that first day, he goes from being a complete loner for most of his life to sticking up for people because it's what's right.
Yeah, he can't catch a break. He seems to want to hate everyone, but be like, fundamentally, he gets invested very easily. I think he like just genuinely wants people to, he wants to be able to care about people, and with someone like Maria, who a pretty girl who comes up to him and seems to give him the attention he low-key really wants. I think that's like, yeah, it's super important to him, even though he ostensibly or like pretends to hate everyone. So
yeah, exactly. Now I forget, in the show or the books, does it say how old Marcus was when his parents passed?
I want to say he's 8, 9, or 10. Like, he's young. He's old enough to like think and all that, but he's young. I know that much. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking too, but I couldn't remember exactly if there was if they actually gave an age for him. But I mean, you think, let's say he's 9 or 10. You think those 6, 7 years, obviously he's in the orphanage home or in the boys' home for some of that time. The boys' home burns down. Everyone thinks he did it. He kind of he doesn't really have anyone to trust to talk to about it. Until he comes to King's Dominion and he meets Saya after Chico threatens him with death, and he comes clean again to Saya, the one person, the first one I guess that he actually trusts, based on their conversation on top of the tower, and he tells her, my reputation is a fraud. I didn't do that. Like, this is I have no I have no presence. I'm not who everyone thinks I am, which, as you watch the show too, and even going into the second episode, you find a lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
Just like high school.
Yeah. That's you nailed it. It at the end of the day, like, these are young teenage kids. Like, yeah, they might be being trained to be killers, but like you said, a reputation at the end of the day is more important to a 17-year-old than like actually having it. You just gotta fake it till you make it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and we see that very quickly with Willie too, the leader of the Free World Order. Master Lin assigns homework assignment where they have to go out and off somebody who deserves it, and they have to bring back proof. And
imagine that being the first homework assignment you get on your first day of high school. Like, oh wow, I'm just like feeling this out. Everyone seems like this dude tried to kill me in the hallway. Blah blah blah. What do I have to do tonight for homework? Oh shit, I have to go kill someone. Yeah.
Yeah, and this Nazi chick is sending me notes that she's gonna kill me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so Willie and Marcus partner up for this assignment. Marcus takes Willie out to the bridge where Marcus was living under, and wants to kill Rory, a homeless guy who has a rough past and has assaulted Marcus at different times, taken things from him. It's just an all-around bad person. And Willie has the gun. He's got Rory in his sights, but he can't pull the trigger. And Willie's family is gang leaders. His mom, nobody messes with his mom. She's the true OG, as he says. Yep. But he can't pull the trigger, and he says, I'm a pacifist. He's this big guy with probably one of the toughest reputations in the school, and he can't pull the trigger for the assignment.
Yeah, tough break.
Yeah, and Marcus can't believe it, of course. So they they find their way to an alley. Rory comes up on him. He starts threatening Willie, and Marcus comes up from behind with a pipe and just cracks him over the head. And that scene where he's beating up on Rory and it's just cutting to black real quick was awesome. I thought that was great.
Great in the sense that it was like, it's kind of tough to watch in a way, because Marcus has that reputation as a cold-blooded killer, but he that's like the first time he really commits violence for violence sake. And it was pretty brutal. I like that the show doesn't shy away from that.
Or the language too. They don't hide that either.
I think we have a character who's, I think, more important a little bit later, but he has a bad word for his name, so I'm excited to see how that gets treated. And then obviously with Marcus killing Rory there, and they dispose of the body in the dumpster there, and let that shit on fire.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you're, I always never really understood this in movies or shows, but they always throw a Zippo into the fire. Yeah. I'm like, Zippos aren't cheap.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, Willie poured like a whole 5-gallon can of gas on him. It just light a piece of paper, throw it in there or something. You don't have to throw the whole lighter in there.
That, and it's also alarming. Like, how many people do you know that carry Zippos around with them? Sure, a book of matches, like a lighter for sure, but I guess because a Zippo can stay burning, maybe that's why we always use it. Yeah. But you're right.
It just looks cooler, I guess, when they toss it in. It's still lit and just.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was that age, if I had a Zippo, there was no way that was leaving my pocket unless like someone was giving me a lot of money for it.
Right, right. Um, but yeah, and the one thing I wanted to touch on too a little bit, Willie and Marcus have a conversation about comic books that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Which is a reflection basically on Image, the comic book company that runs Deadly Class, and Marcus has a drawing of Rory that he shows Willie, and Willie's like, oh, that looks like some comic book shit, and they get to talking about indie comics versus like Marvel and DC, and Willie's a big Marvel fan of X-Men, and when Marcus says that's all trash, that's just it's garbage comics, Willie pulls a gun on him and threatens him, and I don't know, it was just a cool interaction between the two, especially coming from the comic book itself.
Yeah, it's a good send up, but it's also funny in that like Willie seems way more ready to kill Marcus over that than he ever comes to like pulling the trigger on someone who like you could debate might deserve to be killed with Rory later. Right. So I guess kids will be kids. I guess you want to shoot someone even though you're a pacifist over a comic book, but maybe not a bad guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the sequence that is a good exchange, and as I mentioned, like I'm not a big comic book person in general, but I truly enjoyed that. Be like, I get the subtext, guys. I understand what you're really saying. So that was a good little nod. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed that part for sure. I don't read a ton of comics anymore, but I found the ones that I enjoy and the ones I like are more focused on the indie side or the Image comics, as opposed to the Marvel DC world, which just gets incredibly convoluted and crazy. Yeah. I don't keep up with those quite as much anymore. Perfect. Well, we talked a little bit about some of the characters here. We had mentioned Billy. I want to touch on him a little bit more. He's probably by far my favorite character. When they're in the self-defense class and Victor's threatening to break his arm, and he's just continuously making jokes, just laughing while he's being pinned down and his arm's about to snap. That just proves that Billy's crazy.
Yeah, he's a little kooky.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact too that he carries his skateboard around without having to mall grab it, I thought was a nice touch too.
Yeah. He knew.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe it's just like the punk rock thing of it, but he reminds me of like Flea, like from like when Flea's in Back to the Future.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like I don't know if it's just the face or like the mouth or like
I think he does.
It just like kind of reminds me of.
He does look like a young Flea, I think, actually.
Yeah.
That's really weird. I never thought about that, but as soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, like Flea before he was like an old ass man, he would definitely look like that.
Yeah, and when they first get to the graveyard, Petra and Lex are up there. We get introduced to Lex, the great Brit who wants to take down everybody. The first thing Billy does is get rid of their emo goth music,
right,
and pops in some of his punk rock to liven the mood a little bit. And I mean, their whole conversation, not just in that scene, but just in other scenes on the graveyard in general, is exactly how I, in the mid 80s, I was just born, so I don't know what those conversations, but it's exactly how I would imagine conversations like that to go, as far as corporate America sucks, and I'm an assassin, I'm gonna kill all these like big oil company bigwigs, and then Billy's like, don't forget Bono, let's get Bono too while we're at it. Like that just made me laugh, and it just feels so natural, I guess, given the state of the show and the state of the times, in the mid 80s.
Yeah, I think I was not alive in any of the 80s, but from learning about all that, I think the 80s, especially the late 80s, were, I think, depending on who you ask, are a period that's either like looked back on fondly, or for people like you would have these kids in this school, it's like a terrible, terrible time, and that outsiders are just treated like shit, and social policy is being taken away or being built in such a way that anyone who doesn't fit kind of the mold is effectively persona non grata. And I'm not saying I would kill Ronald Reagan, but I could see why you would want to kill Ronald Reagan, and maybe Bono to a certain extent, because he's, whatever.
Yeah, Yeah, I particularly thought that was funny that they changed it in the book. They I think they say Bananarama, which I don't think would have quite the
Yeah, no one would know what that was. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So Bono was a nice
Yeah.
kind of funny touch there. But yeah, I mean, aside from Billy, like you, before we started recording, you had mentioned that Victor was another of your favorites, or as far as the actor themselves go.
Yeah, I Victor is a big, dumb USSR Soviet era KGB assassin in training, and he is, in the books he is like bigger than any human has ever been, and seeing him on the show, he's not a monster, but he's a big dude with his thick, heavy. I can't do the accent, but he I always thought of him as like sort of the humor, like the funny center of everything, where he wants to be like this big hero and he can kick some serious ass, but everything he says is like wrapped in a layer of irony or like mistranslation that is very funny, and the fact that they can pull that off on the show is really good. Victor, yeah, I like him.
Yeah. Yeah, I especially enjoyed the scene where they're in the was it Poison 101 or whatever it is, and they pull a prank on him, and he basically takes a dump right there in the room, and and the teacher knows exactly what's happened, and basically makes Billy go get the mop to clean everything up, and then it cuts immediately. So it cuts from that scene, and then cuts to immediately to the cafeteria where the cafeteria workers just plopping slop on a plate.
Yeah, nice little graphic.
Like that's
there.
like the quickest. Yeah, I'm like, all right, thanks for that. I'm not gonna eat for like a week now. But yeah, and we had mentioned too a little bit with Lex. What are your thoughts on him? Are you a fan of his? Do you like how he's represented in the show?
Yeah, you know what? I think Lex is a character that I always liked by association. Because like I said, like Billy, I always really, really like Billy. Lex works for me as just like, a cantankerous guy from across the pond. He looks a lot like, I guess he would look like in real life based off of the book, which is kind of corny, but at the same time, probably like an accurate look. Just like with, that wannabe Sid Vicious spiky hair. He's all right. He like really, really, really wants to be the coolest guy in the world, which is interesting that he is kind of just viewed as like an arrogant wanker, I guess would be the the correct term. He's good. I like him. I like Petra actually a lot more though. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Willie kind of, it took a little bit for him to grow on me, because in the book, obviously he's more of a scrawny, shorter kid. So seeing, I don't remember the actor's name, but he's a lot bigger, more muscular, taller. He seems a little bit more arrogant in the show, at least in the beginning. Than I would have expected, but it grew on me. I like the dynamic that is building between the two, which obviously builds in the book as well.
I actually think one of the strongest, the show's greatest strengths is that I feel like it's going to allow the characters to breathe so much more and really grow. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but as much as I love this series, I always feel like it just kind of goes from like point A to point B to point C, so on and so forth. And like, it's always kick-ass, kind of violent, exciting stuff. But I always feel like the characters never really develop until they're needed to develop. And just like some of the innocuous conversation you get to overhear, like you mentioned before in the graveyard, or, bullshit in the cafeteria. I think all of that is like just the hallmark of a show that I think understands and respects the source material and knows that it can do something very interesting with it. So I'm super excited to see how everyone continues to grow, and I expect that the show will play with our expectations in a good way. I feel like you'll get more than you bargained for or thought you were going to get with some of these character dynamics too.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm most excited for too. And I think it's huge that Rick Remender is involved in the show as much as he is. Obviously, with when it comes to comic books or just books in general, a lot of it is going to be left up to the reader's imagination. Even if there's pictures to kind of help tell the story, there's still going to be a lot to the imagination left. Where as a TV show, it's more, okay, this is what's happening now. This is this person. This is who they are. This is the change they're going through. You can kind of see that progress a little bit more, right. Especially over a longer period of time. Like you said, they're going to allow characters to breathe, which I think is huge in just the development of the show and the characters in general.
Yeah, even with someone like Maria and her boyfriend Chico, you mentioned earlier, in that first episode, we get, like, you have on the TV series or the first episode of the show, you have more relationship building and like you understand it better than you do in the entire like first volume or arc of the comic series. Like you really kind of get the dynamic at play between them, and you know that's going to be a very important thing to the rest of the show. But I was super impressed that in like an hour-long episode of television, they're able to introduce like 10 characters and give you a pretty good sense of most of the key players that quickly. Also, I think the guy that plays Chico he's probably like a super cool guy in real life, but he is scary as all hell on that show. He's up there on the power rankings of people I would definitely not step to ever. Yeah, and again, going back to Marcus, you know, within the first 24 hours, he's got a knife to his throat, I think like 2 or 3 times, and, by Chico, but he still doesn't step down. I mean, that's, you know, it's going back to Marcus and Saya's conversation where Marcus is like, I don't have anything left to lose. So if he's going to go out, he's going to go out on his own terms. If that means sticking up for somebody that he just met, then he's going to do it. Yeah, he's a wild card. Yeah, which I like. He's not afraid to mouth off at people, especially that first interaction with Lex. Yeah. He just claps back at him a couple times, and it's and you could tell there's kind of like, all right, I get it. All right, I got a little respect for you now, a little bit, tiny bit, but yeah, I'm just like you. I'm super excited to see the character development and where things go. And yeah, same thing. That hour-long episode, you definitely get a better feel for the type of relationship that Chico and Maria have, which obviously comes into play, you know, nearly immediately. Yeah, they don't waste any time with it. Yeah. No, and that carries over to the second episode too. You know, in the most recent episode, we get more Marcus. Of course, he's battling the weight of killing Rory. Yeah. He's you know, chased by the literal ghosts of his recent past. Yeah, and we meet Shabnam. Yeah, finally. Yeah. I wasn't sure if he would make an appearance in the first episode or not, but you know, Shabnam for president. Yeah, I have in my notes here, I like Shabnam as a character more in like the 10 minutes he's on screen in this than his entire appearance in like the first volume of it, because he's like just such a dork and like kind of like you could see why you would associate with that person, because he's a dork. He's definitely got some shit that'll be important later, but I liked him a lot. It was a great introduction. Yeah, definitely. And you know, that beginning too, where we're introduced to him, he's running for president. Again, another reminder that this is a school. Yeah. I mean, does a school for assassins really need a class? Like, is that a thing? Yeah, who would like be some weird like student council elections, I guess. But right. What's his platform? Like what sort of platform does a student assassin run on? Well, I think you'll know later. Yeah. Well, yeah. But yeah, that just interaction too. You know, he's in the cafeteria. He's promoting himself for class president. Victor throws a trash. It was Victor, I think. Right? Victor throws a trash can on his head. Yeah. Pushes him over. Marcus helps him up, and again, it's Marcus showing that he'll stick up for people or help people that need it, even though he tries to come off as a loner. And, and then obviously, Shabnam gives him that cassette tape with like Def Leppard and Banana Rap and all these like bands that Lex makes fun of, and then through that, they decide to have a party at Shabnam's house because he mentioned that his dad's out of town.
Obviously, it's supposed to be a small gathering, but it turns into a massive house-destroying party.
Dude, it's a rager, yeah.
It's a rager, yeah. And, as we mentioned earlier, Marcus is a substance abuser. He drinks, he smokes. And part of the problem, too, is that the campus is dry. He can't get anything. So he takes the opportunity of the party to indulge himself.
Right.
And things get a little crazy there at that party.
Yeah, actually, the party, I think, is definitely kind of the crux of the episode. Before that, we see, there's some other stuff that happens throughout it. But that party, I think parties, this will sound really weird, but I have this rule. I call it the can't hardly wait rule. And that's basically any high school kind of drama experience should have a party in it, because Can't Hardly Wait is basically entirely about a party. And it's a shitty comedy, but a great high school kind of documentary in a weird sense. So I think anytime you have a chance to put your characters that are 17, 18 years old into a situation like that, you need to. As I've touched on already, I think the graphic novel, for as great as it is, the kids never feel like kids as much as, they're assassins. They don't feel like kids as often. But having a bunch of 17-year-olds going over to someone's house because their parents are out of town and maybe you could drink some booze there is such a good thing to see how they interact outside of being trained in a school to be assassins. Also they, you get to see them try to make out with one another and try to buy drugs off of people. It's just it's a fun sequence. I recognize that house from something. I've been trying to think what else it was used in, but I remember that house from another TV show or movie as well.
All right, it didn't catch my attention, but we'll have to.
We'll do some extra external research. Also, other thing about the party, I have this in my notes in all capital letters, and it says, Saya bringing a sword to a party is a serious fucking power move. That's wild. It's the only, she even says basically I can come drink and have some fun because I'm not at school. The rules don't apply there. So what she do is she brings her sword when everyone's just chilling. Yeah. Insane. Absolutely love it. Do not mess with her.
Well, and I think a lot of it too is probably the only reason she's there is because Marcus is her pledge.
Right.
She's responsible for him. So you would think that if that wasn't the case, she wouldn't show her face at parties like that ever, because that's just not the type of person she is. But Master Lin's charged her with watching over Marcus, and basically what he does, she's responsible for, as a long-term assignment, so to speak. There, so. But yeah, I saw her walking in with a sword. I'm like, all right, Saya.
Yeah,
all right,
I was just
I dig it.
Damn, she's gonna have to kill someone, and ultimately she does use her sword, albeit not to harm anyone, but to slap some sex toys around, I guess.
Exactly. And the one thing too I noticed with the party, I mean, in the school, everyone basically sticks with their own.
Right.
Willie sticks with the Free World Order. Sai sticks with
what is it? Kuroki Syndicate.
The Kuroki Syndicate. Yeah. So everyone kind of sticks to their own thing. But when they're at the party, they're interacting with each other like they were maybe not quite friends, but they didn't hate each other.
Yeah, it's almost like they don't have to put on their masks. Almost they might still the neo-Nazi girl is still a neo-Nazi, and everyone still thinks she's a piece of shit, but they can kind of joke or look past that because there's not the constant threat of your reputation at stake. It's let's mingle because no parents, no Master Lin, whatever. Yeah, it's great. It's fun.
And even in the first episode, Willie makes a mention that him and Brandy have been knocking boots.
Yeah, it's for sure. I forgot about that.
She's a neo-Nazi. He's an African-American. Something's not right here. And Mark's like, what is going on? And Willie's like, it's just fun. That's all it is, kind of thing. And then he brushes off the fact that she basically hates anybody that's not blonde hair, blue eyes, Caucasian. So I thought that was interesting too. It's just and going back to the party too. Yeah, everybody's kind of mingling. Marcus is still seeing visions of Rory in his head. Willie's talking about his kill.
He's flexing real hard, huh?
Oh, and Marcus can't take it. He calls Willie out on it. They have a little chat on the front porch, and this is where we get to see Willie's flashback about what happened in his childhood. Mm-hmm. So, like Marcus, he had a very unfortunate, very sad incident where he was, I guess it was a Saturday morning. He was eating breakfast with his dad, and these guys, this gang comes in and tries to kill his dad. There was a gun on the table next to Willie. I mean, Willie was probably 12, 13-ish, would you say?
Yeah, sure.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Willie picks up the gun and just starts firing, but there's so much kickback. He accidentally shoots his dad and kills his own father in the ricochet. Mm-hmm. So Marcus obviously really feels for that. Marcus knows what it's like to lose. He lost both parents. Willie lost his father. Willie's mother flipped the story and said that Willie had gone out and gotten revenge on these guys after they had already killed his dad, and he's been living with that lie and that reputation ever since. So you kind of see a little bit more why Willie's a pacifist, because he swore that he would never hurt anyone again. But then he's in a school for assassins, so it's like you're gonna have to at some point.
It does creates a great dynamic, and that, like you just said, you can totally understand why this kid would never want to hurt someone, because the one time he ever really tried to, he kills one of the most important people to him. It's also like such a good thing that he finally opens up and shares that with Marcus, because clearly they have kind of a similar past, and there should be some kinship between them, and they're gonna have some adventures. I think that's my guess, is that those two might get into some stuff together.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
and as long as Billy tags along for some of that, I'm cool with it too.
Yeah, I feel like Billy's that friend that I mean, you and I obviously love him, but I can see why he pisses some people off. But he always seems to show up, like he's that guy, and I love his cast, and he always seems to have a good joke or two. So
he always has a good T-shirt. He was wearing a Circle Jerks T-shirt with the sleeves cut off at the party.
Yeah, he was looking rad.
Yeah.
Also, he has a crush.
Yeah,
that's so cute.
Petra.
Yeah, that's so cute.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking, but yeah, I mean during that whole party, he's trying to work up the nerve to talk to her, to say something to her that isn't a joke or poking fun at her music,
right?
That like he's done in the past, but. At one point, drunk Lex comes in and kind of ruins the moment, and then when Billy does finally get a moment alone with her, he's like, "I think I love you," and she's like, "What?" Yeah. That's crazy. And then he turns his back for a second, and then she ends up leaving and going upstairs with Victor. Mm-hmm. They've apparently been having a relationship going on there. Mm-hmm. So, and then Billy on the couch, and Lex comes over and he goes, "I saw what happened, man, but." It must be hard, but not as hard as Victor is right now. Like, oh, dude, come on. Yeah. That's the last thing you want to hear.
It's heartbreaking.
Poor Billy, man. Poor Billy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's the guy, too, that's always in good spirits.
Yeah, he I think, obviously it's very early in the show, but he reads, as annoying and over the top and, probably mentally unstable as he is. He kind of is, the glue.
Yeah.
He's an outsider, sure, but as you mentioned earlier, he knows everyone. He knows who's up to what, who you shouldn't associate with, who's cool, who's got drugs, all that kind of stuff. He's a good kid who kind of is super accepting of who he is, whereas Marcus and some of the other kids are really trying to figure it out. Billy is Billy, for better or for worse, and that rules.
He knows he's a loser and he's okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, anything else involving the party that you wanted to touch on, or you think we covered? I mean, like you said, that was kind of the crux of the episode. There was another event that happened at the school that Master Lin kind of put the students through, but any other points regarding the party itself you want to touch base on?
No, I give a shout out to whoever the music supervisor is on the show, especially when... Billy's working up the courage to talk to Petra. They have Violet Femme's Added Up plays, which is lyrically the most perfect song for that kind of high school, just trying to get with this girl sort of music.
And it fits Billy too.
Yes,
he's that style.
Yeah, that folky punk Violet Femmes rule. Like let's we're gonna go on record as a podcast and say that. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
I think it's period appropriate to all of the music. I'm not sure what year, but that would be like mid to late 80s, I think. So yeah.
I did enjoy too when Marcus is listening to his Walkman and Willie comes up to him and asks him what he's listening to, and it's the Smiths.
Oh yeah.
I'm not like the greatest Smiths fan. I just never really dug them that much, but like I understand why people like them. Mm-hmm. And their whole conversation about how, you know, having courage without fear or sadness isn't really having courage, and that sort of thing. And you know, Willie warns Marcus like, there's a lot of snakes here, you know, you better be careful. And Marcus's response is, well, I'd rather let the snakes come and bite so I can see who it is. Mm-hmm. And Willie's just like, it's King's Dominion, we're all snakes. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be, you know, if Marcus hasn't figured that out already just from his first day at school, then you know, he's got a little bit more to learn, I'm sure. Yeah, but I just thought that interaction was pretty cool.
Yeah, and speaking of snakes, I'm pretty sure like the school's logo is 2 snakes or something, if I recall. Yeah. So yeah, I assume a school of assassins, of teenage assassins, would be full of people that are gonna quite literally stab you in the back. So
yeah. Well, and I'm hoping now as the, you know, in another episode coming up, you know, we've had Shabnam run for president. We've had the cheerleaders. I want to see the King's Dominion mascot.
Yeah,
I just want to see him walking around the hallways. Whatever the mascot is, I just want to see it.
What would it be?
I have no idea, but
it's probably like
maybe they'll throw something.
It's a dead body.
Well, and going to the other portion of the episode, you know, they're in Master Lin's class. They're talking about the homework assignment, which Willie and Marcus went on, you know, when they killed Rory, and apparently nobody else was able to complete the assignment. Mm-hmm. Willie's the only one. He's up there in the front of the class explaining what happened, you know, taking credit for him being the one to get the kill with the pipe. He mentioned that he burned the body in a dumpster. You know, and you could tell the whole time Master Lin's kind of eyeing him up, like, this doesn't add up, something's not right here. And basically he sets up a trap or a riddle for the students where he gives them this clue, and there's an antidote, and they're in this room where poison, you know, locked in this room where poison kind of starts to seep in. Mm-hmm. And they, you know, a few of them kind of escape and are able to get to the antidote and figure out the riddle. Maria grabs the plant, starts putting it in Marcus's mouth first, then everyone else's, and then she does Chico last.
Yep.
You know, obviously she wants Chico gone. She had a chance to take him out by just letting him suffer there, but she didn't. She put the antidote in his mouth, and he survived. Do you think there was a reason why she didn't let him die? Or is it because the others were starting to come to and would have seen her let him die?
I think with the added knowledge of like this, you know, having read, I think it's in a way there's more to it than just like, oh shit, everyone's waking up. But you know, she's had much like the other characters, like a very unfortunate lot in her young life, and Chico has always been there for, you know, for better or for worse. So whether you hate him or not, I think it's still kind of like, ah, shit, like he has helped her a lot throughout her life too. So I don't know, that's such a good point that you bring up though, about like helping him up last with the antidote. Like I didn't even really think about that. Just kind of took it at face value, but that simple action is so loaded. And
Yeah, because where everybody was kind of positioned, she could have very easily gotten to him first. Mm-hmm. But instead, she went to Marcus. Then she went to, I think it was Brandy. I forget. Was it Saya or Petra?
I think Saya, because Saya's right near Marcus. I think at that point.
Yeah. And then Chico was you know, he had foam coming out of his mouth at that point. But so I'm curious to see kind of what happens next. You know, in this episode too, Chico. Also reminds Maria up close and personal how much she means to him, mm-hmm. and how much he's supposed to mean to her,
right?
Whether she feels that or not. But yeah, man, he's probably the dude in that whole school that I would not want to go up against.
Yeah, he is a scary boy.
Yeah.
They do a great job, I think, from like a design, wardrobe, whatever perspective. Everyone looks like a believable like person you would definitely see in high school, even though they're like giant assassins. Like they still look like kind of appropriate, and B, like just making them also feel larger than life at the same time. Like there's this great balance where I'm scared of him because when I was in high school I definitely would have been scared of the kids that are big and mean like he is, but also I'm scared of him because we know that he like carries a knife around and is the leader of like some like scary gang. So it's good. It's fun to watch that. I think as an adult that I never have to go back to high school, I can think like, God, he's scary even though I'm 10 years out of high school.
Exactly. And I mean, going back to the first episode where Billy's introducing Marcus to the different gangs, Chico is connected to the cartel. Mm-hmm. If you have any connection to the cartel, you're automatically 10 times more dangerous than like anybody else in the room.
Yeah. The cartel is probably they get shit done in this world, I'm pretty sure, from how we've gotten like a short glimpse of it even in this episode, like how far the cartel's reach kind of goes. So
yeah, definitely. I'm real excited for this season. The next episode comes out in a few days here, so really pumped to see where they go with this. And just kind of to I did want to mention the end of the second episode, which is a scene where I wasn't sure if they were going to do it in the show or bring this character in a different way. They don't actually introduce the character's name, right?
No,
at this point, it's just
we will get that. I'm gonna guess pretty soon, but not quite yet. They don't say his name until a little bit further on.
Yeah. So basically, there's a police officer rolling up to a petting zoo. There's a guy buttoning up after standing behind a goat. That's about all I'll say about that point. Mm-hmm. And then the cop confronts him about it. He turns around and we see a burned face and a tough leather jacket.
And a beautiful head of like hair metal hair too. Yeah. He's coiffed out.
I think there was a dangling earring too, I believe. Yeah. And he's a character in the book that is extremely creepy looking, and you don't want to look at him very much. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you with that, but I was like, I don't want to stare at this guy for too long.
Yeah.
And I think they brought that along pretty well in the show.
He does. He looks. He's obviously way more handsome than the book version, but like he has the same look to him of just like this guy's up to.
In the book, he kind of has like the wiry hair. It's like kind of all over the place, and one eye is much larger than the other in the book. And but yeah, so basically what we come to find is he takes the police officer out, doesn't kill him, but as the officer's coming to, this person wants to find Marcus. He's got a picture of Marcus as a slightly younger kid.
Right.
They said, you're going to help me find this kid. So that's how the episode ends. I thought that was a great way to end the episode, as well as bring in this character that's going to play an important role here.
Yeah.
In the next few episodes, I'm sure.
Yeah, he that was a great little tease, and it's scary, like you had mentioned, like what we first see him doing and what he then says he's willing to do to Marcus once he catches him. This is going to be, I think, our big antagonistic kind of threat right now for the time being, and his name, all right, it's a bad word, as I mentioned, and he earns he can have that name that he has. He's tough enough, I think. So
yeah,
I'm more scared of this guy than Chico, and I already just said how scared I am of Chico.
Right. So I'm assuming here in the third episode coming up, we'll get a little bit more of this guy, and we'll of course get more of Marcus in at King's Dominion. So any final thoughts, Ray, as far as the first two episodes, or anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, I would like to go to a party with all of them. I think it seemed like I said, I'm 10 years out of their age group now, but it seemed like a really good time. Yeah.
Hey, Brian Posehn was at that party.
Yeah, that's right. That was funny.
He swore that he would rock and roll forever. So just take that oath and wear a Judas Priest T-shirt and sell weed to kids. That's all you got to do, apparently.
Hell yeah. No. What about you? Anything you think needs to be said?
No, no, I just, like you, I just really enjoyed both episodes so far. I love the direction they're going with it. I love, it, a lot has happened, but it feels like a lot more is going to happen.
Yes.
There's some shows where they have one event take place and then that's it for like 2 or 3 episodes and it drags on. But in this case, it's bam, bam, bam. So I'm really excited to see the next upcoming episode.
Yeah, like you said at the top of the show, it's only been maybe a day or two at this new school, and it's not even Friday yet. So.
Oh, I just remember this too. The funeral.
Oh yeah, sure.
Master Lin takes Marcus to Rory's funeral.
The guy he killed.
Marcus.
Yeah.
The guy he killed. Yeah. Because Master Lin knows that Willie didn't actually kill Rory. So Master Lin takes him to the funeral. We see Rory's, I think it's his daughter speaking, saying all these kind things about how, Rory's mother had passed away, and he kind of went off the rails and disappeared. And, she was trying to come to peace with everything. Master Lin forces Marcus to go up and say a few words, and Marcus was extremely honest.
Yeah.
Is one way to put it there. Rory was not a good human being. Marcus told people that he gave the truth of what he learned from living under the bridge near Rory, for a handful of years. And obviously, a grieving family doesn't want to hear those things, whether they believe them or not. But Marcus said them, and I think that was a huge closure in the fact that Rory's death was justified, which is one of the things that Master Lin is set on with the school itself. It's basically revenge is okay if it's justified.
Right.
No, it's not going to bring him back, but it's, those people are going to be dead too. So, all these movies and shows that people are going out for revenge, it's you're not going to feel better after they're dead. And Master Lin's like, well, maybe not, but those people be dead too, so at least they deserve it.
Yeah. It's maybe not a good real world lesson to learn, but it's it's a great lesson within the world of 1987 that we're watching. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So I think just that closure that Marcus had, just saying, those couple sentences that he did about Rory and just bearing the truth, basically, lifted the weight off his shoulders about the guy's death. And then Master Lin shows him a folder and it's like, he was wanted for 6 homicides.
Right.
He really was a bad person, all that. So, I think Marcus has realized, he's finally buying into King's Dominion and Master Lin's plan, where the people that they kill are the ones that deserve it and therefore is justified.
Right.
So, it'll be interesting to see any larger scale people or, in the show, if they get assassinated or if they're under attack or, if it expands beyond just, homeless guys under the bridge. Yeah. But, I'm pretty excited for this season.
Yeah, and I hope to see more of Henry Rollins as Mr. Denke.
Yep.
Because I think he delivers the single best line of the entire episode when he's dismissing his class and just is like, have a good weekend, future disruptors of America, which is the most like Henry Rollins thing you could ever say. So,
yes, this show is a perfect fit for him.
Yes, yeah. And I'm sure it's like a dream come true for Remender as well to have Henry Rollins on the TV show. So.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for everybody for checking in. Deadly Class is on SyFy. Airs Wednesday nights, I believe, so definitely check it out. Catch up on the first 2 episodes if you haven't already. And, happy hunting.
Yeah, it's hunting time.